welcome everybody. We're going to get started in about 5 minutes. While you're waiting, Shanika has an activity for you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please feel free to use your annotation tool. It's right at the top where you see Shanika sharing her screen. Hover over that and you'll see annotate, click that, and you can use the text or the draw icon to go ahead and fill in a name, word, or phrase related to after school programs for one of those letters that you see on the screen. I see we already have a couple of responses. If you'd like, you can also share some words or names in the chat if your annotation tool, or you don't have access to your annotation tool. I am loving all of these responses. Just to call some out, we have aligned, book club, connections, discover, engaging, enrichment, fun, friendships, growth, hands-on, homework is always a big thing, and after school, right? Impactful, jump rope. I'm curious, jump rope for heart or just jump roping in general as a physical activity? Kindness, learn something new, math, new experiences, projects, snack, can't forget snack, STEM, tutorials, teamwork, valuable, welcoming, experience, youth. These are all great. Jump rope club, nice. I actually, at the old school I was working for, we had jump rope for heart, and we learned different activities that you can implement with just jump roping. It was fun and very tiring. We partner up with the National Heart Association, so it's cool. It's cool that you have jump rope club. Oh, or double dutch, right? Some people had double dutch as a whole activity. I feel like I don't see that as much anymore.
This is a great starter activity. It's 1:00 Eastern time. We're going to get started. My name is Elizabeth Siri. I'm the Executive Director of Communications and Development at Foundations, Inc. And I just want to thank everyone for joining us. You can continue adding your answers to Shanika's warm-up activity here. While you're doing that, I'll give you a little bit of background about our organization. Foundations, Inc. is a national education nonprofit. We're located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, and our mission is to improve the quality of education by strengthening the skills of educators. So we work across the school day, anywhere adults are working with kids. We work in after-school programs, with schools, districts, and even at the state level in order to create a brighter future for every child every day. If you are interested in learning more about us, take a minute to follow us on social media. You can also check out our website, and we'll make sure that that information is in the chat for you. You might already know us from our signature professional learning experience, the Beyond School Hours Conference. Our conference is held every year in February, and in 2023, we're going to be back in Orlando, Florida from February 9th through the 12th, and we hope that you will all join us. So registration is open. Actually, the hotel block is selling out, so if you are interested, please make your plans soon because we would love for you all to join us. Today, our speaker is Shanika Peck. She's an education specialist at Foundations, Inc. And Shanika is going to share activities from our GraffitiWall series. She's going to give you some ideas on how to set them up, learn from them, and expand on them in order to implement them in your programs. So thanks for being here, Shanika.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. So thank you to everyone who is able to contribute on the screen or even in the chat. So this is a graffiti wall, actually, and we'll talk more about this particular activity and a number of our graffiti walls that we have access to. So don't worry if you weren't able to contribute to this particular activity. We have a couple of graffiti walls that you can interact with later on. So what we'll do is we'll move on. And as what Elizabeth mentioned, today's webinar is focused on graffiti walls. So there are games and activities that you can use to build academic skills or help students practice those social skills. This can also be used to wrap up a topic or introduce a topic. You can use it during transition time. Maybe you can use this for students who often finish early, like their homework. You can actually use this throughout your after school program. They can come in forms of games or puzzles and even art to engage students. So I am actually based out of Foundation Center for After School and Expanded Learning. And here we offer virtual or in-person trainings and workshops for small and large groups. We also offer some evaluation and coaching services that is data-driven. We help you assess the effectiveness of your after-school program. We also provide a lot of tools and coaching to support that continuous improvement process. And of course, we also design different types of program content to support that high-quality program implementation. So just to give you a little background about myself, I've been with Foundations for about a year. I'm actually leaving the classroom. I was a lead teacher and instructor at a year-round independent boarding school for students as young as 3 years old, all the way to 8th grade. I've spent some time in the summer working with our high schoolers as well with their career exploration activities. So I have tons of things I can share. And also being that, this is a large group, this is a great opportunity for everyone to share different ideas and collaborate in the chat like we often do during our webinars. I think that this would be a great opportunity for that. Now, as we move through our presentation today, you will be asked to participate in a number of ways, including the chat. I may ask you to use your annotate tool. If you are having trouble accessing your annotate tool, if you look at the very top of your screen, you should see Shanika's screen sharing. And then if you hover over it, you'll see that bar pop up. You'll select annotate, and then you'll have a menu of things to choose from. You can also use your reaction buttons if you'd like, or you can just focus on the chat. We will be working from Google Jamboard, so I will be sharing a few links in the chat as well. Okay. All right, so for today, we will be focused on how to set up, use, learn from, and expand graffiti walls, and I'll talk more about what those are. We'll also talk about how to use graffiti walls to build 21st century skills in students and capture students' knowledge, skills, and abilities using graffiti walls. All right, so let's talk about the graffiti wall that we were engaged in at the very beginning, right? What kind of learning was practiced with this particular graffiti wall? And you can share your responses in the chat. Oh, wow, we have someone from Canada. Welcome, Philip. All right, so what kind of learning was practiced with that graffiti wall? And again, in the beginning, we were listing different words, phrases, names that are linked to after-school programs. Thank you, Donna. Vocabulary, right? You're probably building on prior knowledge, right? What do you know about after-school programs? And I know a lot of you mentioned words that are associated with after-school programming, like engagement. Yes, brainstorming is definitely a skill that was practiced as well. Yep, anything else? Now with this particular, spelling, peer sharing, yes. So I'm actually going to drop, where is it? There it is. I'm going to drop a copy of this graffiti wall in the chat. Yes, recall. So when you are using a graffiti wall like this, you are, giving students the opportunity to work together, build on prior knowledge, possibly share information that they aren't too familiar with, right? And the thing with this particular graffiti wall, the topic can be anything. It doesn't have to be about, after school programs. Maybe it's about current events. Maybe you would use this graffiti wall to talk about math or STEM, or maybe you want to learn more about the different snacks students are eating nowadays, or the social media content that they have access to, right? So not only are you helping students build information with each other, but you are also learning from your students. And of course, this is pretty easy to do, right? You put it up and then boom, they're brainstorming. They're coming up with all of these words, names, and phrases. So that is what the essential, that's graffiti wall in a nutshell. That is what we expect them to do. We expect graffiti walls to be engaging and allow students to build on that academic content while interacting socially. So graffiti walls, they can be used as a large post-it or poster. You can have a prompt on butcher paper and then have students collaborate using markers, or maybe you would have images and have students, pick an image that they resonate with and post it on this paper as well. With graffiti walls, it can be used, or it could look like anything really. You can have a dry erase marker and possibly use a window, right? Some after school programs don't necessarily have this space. For the materials such as butcher paper, you can use a window or a wall possibly. I know some dry erase markers can be used on desktops and it can be easily wiped clean, right? So there's different ways you can use graffiti walls. As I mentioned before, graffiti walls can be used at different times. So If students are walking into your program, maybe it's during transition time. This can be used to start a lesson, right? I remember someone putting up on the graffiti wall stem, maybe you want to gauge the background knowledge of students with a particular science topic, right? Or content. This can also be used as an exit ticket, right? Maybe you want to end a lesson, figure out what the students were able to retain after spending some time learning with you. This can also be group work, right? So again, we are practicing those 21st century skills. Maybe this is the opportunity for them to collaborate or, share ideas for short or long-term projects. And like I mentioned before, graffiti walls can be used anywhere in your room, a certain location. It doesn't have to be right on a wall. Again, it could be on a window, a desktop, whatever works best for your program. But what I've seen in the past with graffiti walls is really helpful to share this with families as well. So you can print this off and have families use it at home, just to, give them an opportunity to practice certain skills with their students at home, and they're using a routine that the students are already familiar with. And then, of course, why are we using graffiti walls? And that's really to teach academic skills and 21st century skills, and just blending them together in a more fun and engaging way. You can also use it to problem solve or set and meet goals. So these are all the things that we're going to talk about today. So with that being said, I have another graffiti wall for you. So where does your favorite food come from before the store, right? So let's think about pizza, right? What is in pizza? Where does it come from? What you can do is use your annotation tool, or you can share in the chat any piece of information you know about pizza, right? Where does it come from? What's in it? Now with the annotation tool, you can use the text option, or if you have a stylus, you can draw it out. Cheese. Ooh. Now, this is another form of brainstorming, right? So you see those larger bubbles, maybe it's a larger idea about pizza, and then maybe you can add details that fall under that topic about pizza, right? Garden, cheese, sauce for it. So, wheat, right? So we're thinking about the ingredients of pizza. We can also think about where they come. Tomatoes from the Americas. Yeah. Right. What else? What else is in pizza? And this is also a great graffiti wall to use when you're thinking about culture, right? Was pizza always pizza? Right? Does pizza look like pizza in other places in the world, just like in America? Do they look the same? Right? Bread, dough. You may also talk about what other foods that are similar to pizza. Italy, right? This could be a great opening for a global lesson about different cultures, more specifically Italy, right? Seasonings and spices. For some after-school programs, maybe this will be a great start for a cooking class or your cooking curriculum. Right? Do you guys notice any patterns in the web? I see different forms of pizza. Ooh, Albanian pizza. What's an Albanian pizza? And then if you're working with younger students, I see that someone drew a picture, right? Maybe you would have students share pictures of their idea about pizza, or maybe they would do a search. Maybe they're cutting out, Lucy said I'm getting hungry, sorry. Maybe they would cut out images that they normally associate with pizza. Maybe we're talking about food chains that are focused on pizza, like Domino's, Pizza Hut, what's another one? Caesar's Pizza, Papa John's, right? We're talking about grains. So I see a lot of ingredients about pizza in the chat. We're more focused on different countries that may have pizza, right? And I know this is probably silly, but I know a lot of students who don't really associate their food and animals. So if they have bacon as a topping on their pizza, they're not really sure, like they're not too, well, this is with my younger students, they weren't too sure that, where bacon comes from. So when I told them, oh, well, bacon, you can get that from pigs. They're like, what? A pig? And the next thing they're going over different animals and what animal products we use to get the food that we love so much. All right, this is great. So now, oh, I see fire, right? How pizza is made. Is it always made in a brick oven? Can you make pizza at home if you don't have a brick oven? There's a lot of things you can do with this simple brainstorming web of pizza. And this is something we call food flash. So there's different routes you can take with this particular graffiti wall. And it's a route that a lot of us are already familiar with when it comes to brainstorming. I'm going to go ahead and drop this graffiti wall in the chat. But as we go ahead and wrap up our input on this graffiti wall, I would love it if someone in the chat can share when they would use this activity or why they would use this activity. When and why you would use this activity. Yes, hook for a lesson, get them engaged. Like we're talking about pizza or any other type of food, right? Maybe we're not starting with food, maybe we're starting with something else. An icebreaker, that's a good one. Maybe to learn about ingredients and cigarettes. Yeah, right? We don't have to stick to types of food. It may be a thing that we're consuming on a regular basis or we see adults consuming. That's a really important one. Character and skills, right? We're teaching children about different cultures or even math measurements. That's a good one. Ooh, Lucy, I like that. SEL activity, right? What would be taught? So I see a lot of academic and social emotional skills that can be incorporated here. So Diana shared, we're doing SEL lessons each month, and it could be used to evaluate prior knowledge and exit knowledge too. Absolutely, right? This is another form. Maybe instead of using a typical KWL, maybe you would call it, SEL in a flash. Boom, and you would have students fill in something like this before your lesson and after your lesson. That's a great one. It's an evaluation tool. What was that? Oh, I thought someone would share. Feel free if you would like to share, if you want to unmute your mic and share something, that's fine as well. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to move on from here. Thank you so much for sharing both on the screen and in the chat. That was great. All right, so graffiti walls are simple ways to just engage and motivate your students because we're creating that personal and social connections to not only the academic content that we're trying to build on, but also between the relationship of your students, right? We're also using this to challenge students. So like what Diana mentioned, maybe using graffiti walls as an evaluation tool or seeing where you need to beef up your lessons so that students are gaining more information. Someone also mentioned, learning more about the ingredients in items such as cigarettes or things that may affect us. This could also be an element to your project-based learning. This can also provide great opportunities for students to self-correct and recognition, right? This is also a great learning opportunity for students to foster language use and development. Maybe you're looking for students to use that new vocabulary that they may be learning during the school day, and you're just trying to support that development in your after-school program. As you mentioned before, maybe you are building that academic and youth development skills as well, right? Again, graffiti walls are great to connect families and communities to your lesson or your after school initiatives. And of course, you're helping students learn more about the world around them and the different influences on the things that they see on a daily basis. So one of my most favorite things about graffiti walls is that it's low maintenance. So I mentioned this earlier, it doesn't have to be on paper. It can be literally anywhere. It can be done virtually, as you can see, it can be in person. We don't often have a lot of time or resources to implement like a new curriculum. So this is where graffiti walls would come in and just help you to expand on what you already have to engage those students. So again, this is very accessible, right? Many curriculum require special materials to be used, whereas graffiti walls is, marker, paper, maybe tape, or, some kind of visualization for students to see and gravitate to. You can also use graffiti walls to engage students in kinesthetic, visual, social, or cognitive skills, right? I've seen graffiti walls placed in corners of the room so students are hopping around, putting their input on different graffiti walls and tying it back to, what they've learned, and also they're seeing what other people or other students are responding to and how it can connect back to their thinking. Graffiti walls are also learner-centered, right? So students are brainstorming together, they're sharing information, and of course, they're reflecting on their learning using the graffiti wall so that, they can practice or participate in each stage of a learning process, right? This is a great opportunity for students to help each other, right? Maybe they are seeing their peers struggle. This is a great opportunity for them to take some leadership skills, take some leadership into their learning and helping others. It's also very interactive. Students, one, love writing on the walls. So if you give them, paper at least, you want to save your walls, but give them something to write on instead of having them constantly writing on a worksheet or in their book or a notebook like that. It kind of changes the learning environment up a little bit, especially since, a lot of after school programs are positioned in a unique way where they can do these things within the time that they do have. Now, as we get into more graffiti walls, it's also important to talk about how it can meet the student needs, right? So graffiti walls have a unique ability to challenge students who find learning more simple and support students who need that additional help to make that progress. So in terms of supports, you may shorten the time spent on a graffiti wall so that you can reduce frustration in students. You can also increase the time, possibly, depending on what that student is in need of, what their mental capacity is calling for. It's a great way to reinforce group work, right? There's a lot of ways you can incorporate collaboration skills or cooperation skills. With graffiti walls, you can always start small. You don't have to have something that is too challenging at first, right? You want to keep it simple and engaging, all while you're expanding those skills. So we're talking about, starting with small words, right? If we're doing the brainstorming with the Go A to Z, maybe you would have them contribute a word or two instead of a phrase, or having them dig really deep, right? Maybe you would provide some tools or technology to assist in researching so that they can contribute to a brainstorming wall. You can also think about vocabulary, right? Someone mentioned this earlier, this is a great way to exercise vocabulary, whether they're using familiar or simple vocabulary, or possibly you want to strengthen that, right? You can also model what skills you are looking for in a graffiti wall. So maybe you would put in the first response and then see what happens there. One interesting about graffiti walls is that at the very top, and you'll see once you download that attachment, some of these graffiti walls have very, very minimal words for directions, right? How often are our students reading directions on their worksheet? From my experience, they like skip that and go straight to me and ask, oh, what am I doing this for, right? So if you're modeling how to use a graffiti wall, then if you use more of it, the students begin to incorporate that as their routine. Let me see what this graffiti wall is asking of me so I can participate or contribute completely, right? Graffiti wall isn't just words. You can use numbers or even pictures. And that's a great way to help students just express themselves, right? Some students, they may need pictures to help them understand what's being asked of them, but also someone mentioned this culture, right? Maybe some students can resonate with what is happening or what's being asked of them through pictures. So graffiti walls can also challenge your students who are excelling or need additional support, right? So you may ask them to produce more answers or more information, or you want them to take a deeper step into, what is being asked of them. You may provide several levels of difficulty. A lot of our graffiti walls can be beefed up a little bit so that, you could dig a little deeper and just help students differentiate their learning, right? You can also use specialized vocabulary, right? Those technical terms students are learning in school, you can use that in your graffiti wall, or possibly make it a little bit more difficult by adding new words or having them research it. You could have students use advanced knowledge, right, about a particular subject, and have them take what they've learned or what they've researched and incorporate that into a graffiti wall. And of course, you can use this as a competition. Kids love competitions, so maybe you would use this to have them compete, right? Maybe it's a graffiti wall triathlon, have them challenge each other either in a group or, provide them the opportunity to use their highest level skills, whether it be them researching or collaborating or showing different leadership skills. Now I have another graffiti wall for you. Now, this is what we call red to hot. And here you are going to transform the word boy into man by changing one letter at a time. Now, each time a letter is changed, it still must be a word, a real word, not a nonsense word, okay? So for example, if I was starting with the word red and I want to transform it to hot, I can change red to rod, and rod becomes rot, and rot becomes hot, right? So we're gonna try this with boy. We're trying to change boy to man, one letter at a time, and it has to be a real word. All right, I see someone's already trying. So boy to bay. How can you get bay to man? Now what? Ooh, boy, band, man. That was quick. Thank you. That was really quick, right? It'll be interesting to see if someone can do this in a shorter amount of steps. Someone said bay, band, may. Boy to band, change two letters. We're gonna do one letter at a time. You're jumping ahead. Boy, bay, may, man. Good. So, boy, bay, may, man. So everyone pretty much took the same route, right? I agree. Boy, bay, band, man is a good way to go. Or boy, bay. Boy, everyone's agreeing. What about boy, bay? Wait, I lost my thought. Oh, boy, bat, mat, man. That could work also. Right? Good one. Now this really, so with this red to hot graffiti wall, if you're using one word and you're transforming it, maybe you have students focusing on CVC patterns, or maybe you're changing the words themselves to make it a little bit more difficult. Now what we're going to do is take it a step further, and we are going to use sentences And I love using sentences with my older youth, right? We always focus on helping younger students how to read, but not so much our older students. So you can definitely use this kind of graffiti wall with sentences. So let's say we take the sentence, the young woman went to the store, and change it to an old man ran to the hotel. Now what we're gonna do is I'm going to switch screens, and we're going to use my Jamboard so that we can have more room here. And I'm going to share a link to my Jamboard. There it is. All right, in the chat, I'm sharing my link to my Jamboard, and I would love to see you change this sentence. The young woman went to the store, change it to the sentence, an old man ran to the hotel. The sentences must make sense. No nonsense sentences, please. Let's see how well you guys do this. Ooh. All right. Can everyone see my Jamboard? All right, go ahead and collaborate. How can you change that sentence? Yes, you can add text boxes. And then you would just readjust it by moving the cursor. The old woman went to the store. The old man went to the store. Oh, that was quick. Okay, you can use text boxes or the post-it option. Ah, that was good. Now, while we have a few other people trying to work this out again, how would you beef up this activity to help older youth? Or how would you simplify this activity to help with our younger students? And while you're thinking about those two questions, I'm going to add this graffiti wall to the chat. All right, how can we beef up this activity? See any of these text boxes on my own screen? You may have to refresh your screen to see it. Can everyone see my screen? Okay. That's weird. Let's see. Use specific sentence structures, maybe incorporate areas of interest. Right, I know sentence structures are a big thing, right? Especially with older youth just writing, right? They often copy what they see when it comes to sentences, but are they able to come up with their own or change different parts of, speech? Two frame, ooh. right, I do have 2 frames. I have one frame for the boy to man. We're looking at the second frame. Thank you, Patricia. I totally forgot about that first frame. Jenny, did that help? All right, Katie said, oh, perfect, thank you. Thank you so much, Patricia, for helping out. Yes, Katie shared simplify for young children with picture options or word options. I love the word options. That actually helps them differentiate maybe sounds, right? All right, we can add pictures too. Maybe you're giving them a picture with this graffiti wall and having them come up with their own red to hot for their peers to solve. Maybe you would provide students the opportunity to come up with their own constraints, right? Maybe students do want their friends to share more than just 1 or 2 letters, right? All right, this is great. What I'm going to do is switch my screen. All right, that was fun. So again, that graffiti wall can be found in the chat. You can always, spice it up a bit. Maybe this is a great idea for you. So the concept behind the term red to hot, that was used as an example. We call it red to hot because in the instructions, the original 2 words that we were using is red and changing it to hot. But you can use any word and use that same directions to flip or change the word. So it was just catchy. Red to hot is just a catchy way to describe the instructions for this graffiti wall. Right, so word transformation. And like I mentioned before, with red to hot, this actually helped me with my younger students with those CBC words. So I had them highlight different parts of the word and change it without using nonsense words. Younger students, they love nonsense words and they can kind of, get carried away with it. So this was actually a more organized way to practice those CBC words or sentences. All right, so yes, red, rod, hot. Yes, yep, thank you, Paula. All right, so graffiti walls, as I mentioned before, one, it's very fun, right? We can definitely connect back a lot of those academic skills. It provides flexibility when you are helping students build skills in language arts, math, social studies, and science skills. Sometimes you can do that simultaneously, right? But they also build 21st century skills. So we're thinking critically, we're using creativity, there's citizenship involved, communication, and collaboration. Right, so what we've done earlier with Food Flash, right, we're collaborating different ideas in the chat about the food topic or the topic of the Food Flash. We are sharing other things that we can do with that same graffiti wall, but we're also, with that last graffiti wall, we're thinking about how to change this word and still make it make sense. All right, so let's just do a quick think back. Let's reflect on the graffiti walls that we were participating in this session. And as I mentioned, each of the graffiti walls, I want you to consider the academic content that it uses and the 21st century skill that they used. And you can use your annotation tool. Right, so we're reflecting on go A to Z. I'm going to drop that graffiti wall in the chat one more time. So go A to Z, that was the graffiti wall that we interacted with at the very beginning. What skills were involved with that particular graffiti wall? And you can use your annotation tool to select which ones. So we're thinking about go A to Z, where we had You guys brainstorm different words, names, and phrases connected to after school programming. What kind of skills were you practicing? Right. Lots of collaboration. Creativity, language arts, right? It's another form of brainstorming. Communication. Good. So that was the Go A to Z graffiti wall. All right, I'm going to clear the screen. Ooh, social studies. Yeah, that can work. All right, now let's think back to food flash. What kind of skills were being practiced in food flash? And again, I'm going to drop that graffiti wall in the chat. So food flash, what's happening there? Yeah, social studies, right? We were talking about different countries. We incorporated culture, right? Creativity. Science, yes, someone did mention using math measurements as a part of the brainstorming piece, right? Awesome. Science too, right? If we got, if we, dug a little deeper, we could probably talk about, different ratios to show chemical reaction in the dough to make it, what is that word? Rise. I don't know where that word. But yeah, right. You could definitely tie in a lot of these academic skills and 21st century skills as well. Lots of collaboration. Ooh, I'm sorry, Anne. I'm going to, hey, Paul, we'll be able to share the graffiti walls in a different format other than sharing it in the chat. Yes, thank you, thank you. You will get these graffiti walls in a follow-up along with the recording. Thank you, Paula. All right, and then last but not least, red to hot. What skills were being practiced with that graffiti wall? Creativity. Definitely. I love these hearts and checks, right? Language arts. You could tie in some social studies in there, right? Again, we have, the opportunity to be a little bit more flexible instead of just following curriculum, right? Now, I do have a question for you all, right? What kind of challenges will you face connecting this to learning? What could be the possible challenge? The one I can think of is possibly, working with students who are on different levels, right? How can you reach most of your students using this one particular activity? Can you also do red to hot with math? I could, yeah. If you're thinking about math operations, I think it's possible. And we actually have different types of graffiti walls for STEM activities, global activities, and general academic curriculum as well. Right, so what would be the benefit of graffiti walls? How can we benefit from this moment? One, it's fun, right? Don't want to lose, the students' motivation to continue to do work. You want to, show it in a different way so that they don't feel like they're always working. All right, awesome. STEM in everyday life. Right, and also careers. It gets them thinking about different careers too. We use STEM in everything, even as adults, right? Ooh, quiet students can add, right? You're catering to all types of students, their different learning abilities too. Right? Not all students like to, have a voice in the room, at least verbally. Maybe they do well with presenting their findings on paper or just posting it somewhere and then having others discuss it. So what I'm going to do is move on. This is great. Thank you, everyone, for contributing. So GraffitiWalls is also a positive way to connect with the school and the families, right? So you can engage your schools by talking to us, your school day staff, by talking with the teachers and other school day staff, right? Especially about these topics or subjects that students may be struggling with. You may reach out to them and ask how best can your program supplement these academic activities, and you can actually do that with the GraffitiWalls, right? If you are an organization or an after-school program that is based in a school, maybe you can use this graffiti wall as, evidence of learning. Maybe it can be used as a note to school day teachers on what students are doing in your program, what they can accomplish either on their own or with a group, a whole group or small group. You could also use this to encourage teachers to respond. So maybe you would have a graffiti wall up and have teachers offer their input on this graffiti wall, or how they would beef it up a bit or bring it down a couple of notches to help specific students. Ooh, I like that, Doreen. So you can split class and each group take on roles, timekeeper, scribe, report, etc., right? Especially if they are creating their own graffiti wall, that would be helpful. You and the students can also encourage their teachers to respond to these graffiti walls, right? So if the students are into it, you're into it, get your teachers on board, and everyone's going to be able to get into it as well. You can also invite families to participate in graffiti walls. At my old organization, we had a lot of Saturday events, and families were always interested in how their students were doing in school or in their program. And one great way to show them is by having them do it, right? So you could probably have families participate in a graffiti wall. Maybe while they're waiting for their child to, during pickup time, maybe they would do a graffiti wall while they wait. You can probably send home graffiti walls as well, so that families can work with their students on these graffiti walls. And of course, there doesn't require much materials or prep at all. So there's a lot of great things you can do to connect it back to schools and families. All right. Now, there are 3 things that you should consider. Ooh, question. How do you wrap it up once walls are done? I've seen this done different ways. You can end with a class discussion. I've seen students who, depending on if it's a brainstorming graffiti wall, they would highlight one portion to investigate. So if you're using this as like a STEM activity, you would have them highlight one portion of that web to investigate, and then they can come back to that program with information that they've learned and then continue to do that on each section. This can be a end of the group discussion and have students highlight what they felt like they could work on more or what they need more time with. And there's actually a lot of different ways, but that's just to name a few. Okay, so as you are implementing a graffiti wall, there are different things that you want to create or observe while you are implementing the graffiti wall. And that is, of course, the high quality activities, right? You want to make sure your graffiti wall is accessible, it's visually engaging for students. I know some students don't really like all the different colors, so maybe you would just keep it in black and white. Maybe you would use color to emphasize different directions or pieces of your graffiti wall. You also want to make sure your teachers are working with, are acting as facilitators as well, right? Or your facilitator have different ways to instruct or give instructions to students, right? They're providing clear and short directions. Maybe they're engaging or encouraging students, motivating them, supporting them. So or challenging them, right? Are our teachers acting as facilitators in their learning? And of course, are you expanding their learning? So you're asking youth to use their 21st century skill. Now, this checklist is a checklist that we always use with any of our activities, not just graffiti walls, but it's also a great checklist to use if you are doing a peer observation, right? You have different aspects of your activity and you want to focus on a certain aspect, is this activity engaging enough? Then, that would be a portion of this checklist to pay close attention to. So that's just, a little checklist that you can use as you implement engaging activities such as GraffitiWall and much, much more, of course. All right. How to download the checklist. Imani, Paul is going to share all of the resources that I've shared in the chat for today. So if you aren't able to open or downloaded them here, you'll have them shortly. Okay. All right, so we are wrapping up with our session for today. I hope you all are intrigued and motivated to do much more with these graffiti walls and activities, whether it's a time filler or you're introducing or summarizing some kind of learning here. What we would love for you to do is take a few minutes to share your ideas. So you can share an idea for a graffiti wall in the chat. A few of you were already doing this, so that was great. Or you can sketch an image or use the annotate feature to share your ideas. Like you can use a stamp to indicate your idea or what ideas you would like to try. What would be a great idea for a graffiti wall? Now I'm just going to go through the chat because I did see some great ideas. All right, what would be a great graffiti wall for SEL? Maybe brainstorming emotions. I used to have an emotion universe. And we would start with one big emotion, right? Anger. And then we would just go from there. Ooh, we're on the same board, same page. Thanks. Ooh, great ideas. Animals, picnic items, how veggies grow. That would be a great intro to science as well, right? Yes, keep balance in the room. I'll make groups of 2 or 3 and they'll use whiteboards. Oh, writing down nouns. Ooh, you can have a graffiti wall focused on how you are feeling today, Cecilia. That was a good one. How do you feel today, right? Maybe a temp check as soon as they walk into the room, right? If you're using a graffiti wall as an activity for transition time. Holidays are upon us, Kathy. Gratitude, yes. Ooh, children curating, right? Keep what they contribute to a graffiti wall. I love that. So students making personal walls, right? Has to be a great motivator, recording their journey of learning. Yes, this is great for students and their families to see progress. I love that, Philip. That was a good one. Ooh, describing yourself. Yes, saying nice or positive things about classmate, right? We definitely want to establish a healthy relationship between students and their peers. What do you like best about school? Yeah. Or your after school program, what would you like to change at school? Learning about current events is always a big one. Love themes. Red ribbon, Native American month, yes. Right, if you want to focus on food, right, maybe you could talk about what types of food that are pretty much the same, but different in different cultures. Working out problems, yep. You can definitely use a graffiti wall and like a class council talking about goals, what they can do to accomplish their goals or different behaviors they would like to address as a class. That's a great question. What is Red Ribbon? Evelina, would you like to elaborate Red Ribbon for us, please? I see someone mentioned civics. Awesome. Someone's looking forward to using GraffitiWalls to help with vocabulary and sight words. Week against substance abuse. All right. Thank you, Sandy. So Red Ribbon is Week Against Substance Abuse, end of the week closing. Yeah, could be an end of the week student council, right? All right, so as you guys are coming up with these different ideas, you're probably thinking, ooh, why is something important? Right. Probably thinking, well, how do I know that these ideas are working, right? A lot of you are going to take this away, and of course, you're going to, you know, incorporate this. It's very easy it's practical to use it in your program as soon as possible. So again, you know, you could definitely use that checklist just to see if it's really working for you or your program, for your staff, just to check in, you know? So again, I shared this checklist in the chat, and as Paula mentioned in the chat, a lot of the resources that we shared here today will be available to you, including the recording. I also want to share, thank you everyone for sharing. If you are interested in learning more about the graffiti walls that Foundation has to offer, we do have a link to our resources. We also have a link to download free resources. Let me just get that to you right now. So I'm going to share a link to download the free resources, and the link to our graffiti wall books is up on the screen. So take some time to jot it down. And I'm going to go ahead and share the link to the other free resources here. All right, I see a lot of collaboration in the chat. Thank you. Looks like a lot of people are going to take advantage of what they've learned here today, which is awesome. So I just shared in the chat free link, the link to download free resources, the link to have access to other resources. Our ebooks is up on the screen as well. All right, the link that I shared in the chat should work. I was able to pull it up, but it's definitely here. And with the downloadable resource, you just fill in the top information, and then you should have access. So I'm going to share that here. Okay. All right. Okay, so that's all I have for you today. Paula shared in the chat a couple of other links. Let me know if one of those links that I shared isn't working for you, and I'll reshare it with you. All right. Any questions? 3 links. I shared 2 links.
So it looks like the download link might not be working, so we'll make sure that we check that out. And we can send something in the follow-up email on this webinar if people are having trouble with that link. Sorry, the UPS man is here, so.
Oh, sorry about that, but yes, thank you, Elizabeth. Like what Paula mentioned, you'll have your follow-up email with the rest of those links. So sorry about that. I was able to access it, I think. I'm not sure, but you'll have access to that shortly. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Thank you, everyone, for participating today.
Yes, thank you, Shanika. This was great. I was thinking about, what somebody said about using the graffiti wall as like a check, an emotion check for the day. It's something that you could do with even really little kids. You could get stamps that have like the different faces, or you could have them draw a little picture. So even if they're not able to write words themselves, you could definitely use that as an emotion check-in. So I love that. Thank you everyone for taking out time out of your busy schedules to join us for another one of our webinars. Please join us again next week. Paula put the link in the chat for you to sign up. We have one of our perspectives from the field webinars coming up. The topic this year is representation, so it's been a really interesting conversation. That talk show is also live at the conference. Again, the Beyond School Hours Conference will be February 9th through the 12th in Orlando, Florida. And we hope you will all join us for that. We also have that information in the chat for you. Take a minute to fill out our survey because your feedback is really important to us. And again, thank you, Shanika. This was really great. And thank you everyone for joining us.
Again, thank you everyone for your participation. Great ideas. Looking forward to using them.
Thanks for all the valuable information today.
Thank you.
Just so you guys know, and I think I just put it in the chat, but it gives you on the assessment, the end of course, where it says which webinar you attended. It only has October 5th, 12th, 19th, and November 2nd. So I don't know
thank
which one
you.
to pick. Just pick one.
Yeah, Paula. Yeah, just go ahead and pick one. I think that will work. We'll see if we can get that fixed too.
I don't need a certificate anyway, so okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Also about the downloadable links, it's on our website under resources. So if you go to Foundation,
resource link is not currently working. We'll have to figure that out. I'll email it to everyone. If you're not seeing today's webinar in the end of course assessment, just try refreshing the page. It should be there. Sometimes it takes a second. But we will email you everything. Everything Shanika posted will be there for you. And thank you everyone for coming.